I'm here at Linaro Connect in Hong Kong with Deepak Saxena. Deepak, you're the Linaro kernel tech lead, and I had the privilege of sitting down with you about a year and a half ago in Orlando, I think, the first time I actually got to talk to you. So, in that time, how much closer have we moved to a consolidated kernel? That our goal is a consolidated kernel, and what in that time since you started has excited you most about what we're working on here at Linaro?
So we're really close. We're always hesitant to give dates and everything, but our goal is still to, by the end of the year, have a single consolidated kernel that boots across all the Linaro member platforms. Not necessarily with some of the closed source drivers, because it will take a little extra time to port. But this week itself, our hackers are working on getting the kernels booting on multiple machines. Right now we've got it almost booting. So we're building a single kernel image, and we've almost got booting on the Freescale IMX board. And we've done a lot of work the last year or so to get here. There's a lot of different threads that all connect to the single sort of golden, holy grail, as I call it, of what we're trying to get to. Device tree. So when I started Connect was actually about a year ago in Budapest. And we had just kind of said we're going to start doing device tree. And we didn't really have much at that point. We had a couple of patches from Grant Likely that enabled device tree on ARM, and that was it. And now we're at the point where for all our member platforms, and for a majority of the platforms that aren't even our members, for all the community platforms, we now have device tree support. So for the Samsung platform, pretty much almost all the devices are ported over. For the STRXM, we're at the same point also. Almost all devices are ported over OMAP, and also the UX500 from STRXM. All of those are almost completely done. So that's really exciting. I mean, just forgetting about the single Z image, the fact that we've got device tree to this point is really great, because it's going to allow for a lot of code cleanup, and it's going to make it a lot easier for our members, customers, to develop their platforms and their devices, because they can just take the device tree that we're shipping with the reference platforms, and they can just make a few changes, and in theory, the kernel will just boot and work on their platform. So that's one area we've worked on. The other areas we've worked on is a lot of consolidation of different driver infrastructures. So GPIO, PinMux, those are kind of the two major ones. RIQ controllers. We've gone through, consolidated those, cleaned up the implementation so we can have just a single set of code that's shared across everything. Yeah.
I think it's going to be, you said you hesitate to give a date when things are going to be ready. It's kind of like most projects, it's ready when it's ready.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be an exciting day when we get to announce here and demo it at our Demo Friday event where it's all run, to point that out. Here's all the boards and it's consolidated, and here's what's happening behind the scenes.
What I'm excited about is when we can demo, maybe in a year time frame, maybe 9 months time frame, maybe 6 month time frame. Here's the same kernel booting across these 4 platforms and running Android on those 4 platforms. Yeah. That's going to be really exciting.
It is, and I think that not only are we here at Linaro going to be excited about that, but I think the greater community is going to be excited about that as well. And so, I'll keep bugging you about that and asking for the dates. But you just mentioned the Z image, and so I heard tell, if I looked at the schedule correctly, that you're going to be speaking at Linux Con in Japan.
Yeah, so next week I'll be in Japan. I believe I'm speaking, I hope on Wednesday, because I don't really want to speak the first day because I slept with my slides together. But I think I'm speaking on Wednesday in the morning on one Z image to rule them all is kind of the theme. And it's going to be exciting, just going over everything we've done over the last year at a pretty high level detail, because we don't have the time to go into technical detail of everything, but kind of at a high level. What have we done? What's left? Where are we going? What have been some of the challenges? What are some of the interesting things we've learned? It's been sort of an experiment in software archaeology, because we're looking back at code, some of it which has been the kernel for over 10 years, and going, we don't really need this anymore. But if we want to remove this, it's a lot of work to actually figure out the places, all the legacy places where this code's stuck in there.
So, and I should know this, and for some reason the number just left my mind, and how large is the Linux kernel now? How many lines of code is it now?
Oh, I could tell you right now. But a couple of million.
Easily. So, and I know that you've covered this in past interviews and interviews with other people, but how did you find your way to Linaro?
So it's actually kind of funny. I've been doing open source kernel work for over 10 years. I've worked at One Laptop Per Child, helped maintain their kernel. Worked at Monte Vista Software, was their kernel maintainer, and also helped a lot with sort of doing some of the work we do at Linaro, reviewing vendor code, helping vendors understand how to work with the community, helping people clean up their code. And Paul McKinney actually emailed me and said, so do you know anyone who would be interested in this position? And I kind of looked at it, I says, I've actually been looking at that position on your webpage for a couple of months, but I haven't been sure if I want to apply or not because it was like a tech lead management role. I've never really done that before at this job. But I was like, well, let's talk. And that's how I ended up here. And I was really excited about the position, about the work we're doing because, in some ways it's the dream job that I've wanted for a while. We get to work on improving the community. We get to help vendors learn how to work with the community. We get to educate people on writing better code, and that was one of the really exciting things we did this week. We had a whole training thread that I can talk a little bit more about. And I get to work with people from all over the world, who are working on Linux kernel. It's great.
And you get to travel all over the world.
Yeah, I get to travel
You're in
to
Hong
awesome
Kong
places.
this
Yeah,
week, you're in Japan next week. And you kind of segued a little into it when you mentioned the training. This week, I was really excited. Unfortunately, I had to get swept away on some other events that I had to take care of. But you gave a whole introduction to things, introduction to Linux kernel, introduction to Git, introduction to pinmux, and the device tree, and SOC, and just all these different things that were super exciting at that geek level. And I say that tongue in cheek and very affectionately when I mean that, when I say that. So I heard that those sessions were quite popular. What was your experience? What did you walk away from that training with?
Well, so the sessions were really popular. We had standing room crowd and I think all the training sessions. And we were in a room that held, I think, 40-some people. So that was really exciting to see that. I think that the thing I walked away from is that there's a big desire to learn about this stuff. How to work in the kernel, how to work in the community, how to get involved, how to make a clean port. I think what we're seeing is sort of, having been involved in embedded Linux for like 10 years, is we're sort of seeing this new wave of people finally kind of saying, okay, we need to work upstream. 10 years ago, everyone's doing everything in-house, and then they kind of went to, companies like Monte Vista as an example, to do their porting, and then they kind of brought it back in-house. But there's always been the struggle of like, well, the upstream, yeah, it's great, but I think people are beginning to realize that working upstream is really important, and from a business perspective, from a community building perspective, and I think that's one of the big things I'm taking back from the fact that we have so many people at these training sessions. Especially the first one was Upstreaming 101, was how to work with upstream, both from a technical perspective, how do you write quality code, and how do you interact with the community, where are some of the social aspects of interacting with the community, because that's actually more important than actually the technical part of it in some ways.
There's a lot of protocol that it's unwritten protocol too.
Yeah.
It's just, you just know what you know.
It's tribal knowledge is the way I put it.
Exactly.
It's like, because there's a lot of information out there around how do you write a device driver. You can go buy books on it, and most of them are outdated just because of the nature of the Linux kernel and how fast it moves. But there's nothing that says, okay, once you've written that device driver, how do you get upstream? And how do you write the device driver so it's actually usable and acceptable by upstream community? In the device tree session also was a lot of people there, a lot of really good questions. I think there's a lot of excitement from people to jump in, get involved, get their stuff up to date, and get it upstream.
So one of the things that I found quite interesting was that even developers who've been around for a while, who have been used to the x86 platform, were very interested in your introduction sections because there's little nuance differences between x86 and ARM. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think that the biggest thing, that I like to say, sort of a joke, is that no one does an x86 port, right? Because whether you have a laptop or whether you have a high-end server and you're trying to get Linux up and running on that, they pretty much look the same from a platform point of view. They all have a CPU, some bridges, and they've got some similar devices. Once you get to the really high-end, like supercomputing stuff, or the really low-end, deeply embedded stuff, you've got a difference there. But that's not what sort of the average developer is going to be working on. They're going to be doing a point-of-sale system, or they're going to be doing an in-car entertainment system with an x86 processor, and it's all going to sort of look the same from a kernel perspective. With ARM, it's very different. You have a SoC, and then you build a board around the SoC with a bunch of different devices that you connect in different ways, and there's no platform definition, which is a challenge. It's something we're also working on, sort of moving forward. So there's a little more of a learning curve to go from, I've got a piece of hardware to I've got Linux up and running on there.
So we'll have to wind it down, but thank you so much for stopping by. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2 to this interview, because there's a lot more I want to ask you about, and a lot more that I want to let people know about. So Deepak, thank you so much for always being excited and exciting people about the Linux kernel.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for taking the time.